after a rainy qualifying session, I ended up on pole for this race. The AI was having just tremendous difficulty in the rain, which I think I'm going to have as well if I don't turn on my windshield wipers. I don't know why that's not the default, but you know, here we go. I am leading. I have one win, I think. Did I win two? I don't remember. I have at least one win, and maybe two. But this is round 3, and we are at Snetterton, which is a track in the United Kingdom. We are racing the Renault Clio Cup cars. So I'm pretty early in my P-Cars 2 career right now. This is a fun little car. So they're front engined and front wheel drive. Very, very easy to drive. It's just paddle shifters. It's not like H pattern or anything like that. You know, being front wheel drive, they're pretty easy to control. Good beginner car in this game. So I looked online, and you can buy one of these in real life for about £33,000, which, you know, I'd have to do the conversion. I'm guessing that's like 60, 70, 80,000 US dollars, which, you know, was quite a bit more expensive than this game. So I think I'm going to stick with the game for now. At least until I have a spare, you know, $100,000 lying around, because not paying attention. Because of course, after you purchase the car, this is the sort of quality content that you will get here. Me forgetting what I'm doing and driving off the track. But you know, of course, aside from the money that you need to purchase the car, you also have to get to the races. There's usually about 7 rounds or so in this series, it looks like. And then aside from getting to the races, you have to buy fuel and tires and all of that stuff. So racing is a rich man's game, whereas sim racing, not so much. I am sitting here on a wheel stand that I DIY'd out of wood. It's portable and everything, which is great, and the pedals attached to it, so you know, I don't have my pedals running away from me all the time. And I'm using an ancient, you know, as far as technology standards go, an ancient G25 steering wheel. So, you know, not exactly the same price as racing a Clio Cup car at a track, but I'm having a good bit of fun. So that's the important thing here. I don't know what it is with the AI on this track. They're just terrible. In the rain, anyway. It was kind of weird as I was practicing and warming up. I've kind of been out of the sim racing game for a while, and you know, I recently got a new computer, which led me to think about getting back into it and playing a backlog of games that I just hadn't played because I didn't have a computer that could run it. And this is one of those, Project Cars 2. And so as I'm working through this backlog, I'm not very quick, and I forget a lot of the tracks, and so as I'm learning the tracks, generally when I go into a race weekend here in the career, I'll do the 30-minute practice session or whatever, and usually at the beginning I'm just dreadful because I don't know the corners at all. And then as the weekend goes on, I get a little better, and then eventually I do qualifying, and then I kind of make adjustments to the AI settings depending on where I am, because I like to try and have a competitive race. Like, I don't like just running away from the field. But at this track, early on in the practice session, I had some ground to make up to the AI. I was fairly slow. Then it started raining, and they just kind of fell off the cliff. And You know, I kept raising the difficulty settings on the AI, trying to adjust it. I just never could get it quite right. I mean, I'm fairly far ahead right now, more than I don't feel a lot of pressure coming from behind. Now, eventually, I will crash and have to catch up, and that'll make it maybe a little bit more fun. But for now, it feels like I'm just hot lapping a little bit. But maybe that's okay. We can talk about the track a little bit. So this is Snetterton. It's in the United Kingdom, hence the rain. That's what happens in these places. Or so I'm told. I've never actually been to the UK. I do have family from there, but I haven't been myself. But you know, that's the joke, right? It's always raining. Anyway, this track is owned by Jonathan Palmer, who was a Formula One racer in the 80s. His son, Jolien, is a commentator, media personality for F1 now, but he raced for the Renault team for about a season and a half. He wasn't fast enough or consistent enough or whatnot for Renault, so he ended up getting replaced in his sophomore season, I believe. But his father owns this track in the United Kingdom, which, you know, it's pretty cool. Now, I believe the Clio Cup in England does run this track as well. So the race that we're in is a race that would happen in real life. I always mess up this corner. That was terrible. So again, this is the sort of thing that you'll get from this channel. Sometimes I just end up having a brain fart and doing things that aren't great. But really, I love sim racing. It's a great hobby. I don't have tons of time to spend on it, as much as I'd like maybe, but it is a lot of fun. And I'm kind of trying to design the content and the things that we do on this channel for people that are kind of like me, that are like okay-ish sim racers, that take it seriously, like try to do well and really enjoy it, but you know, aren't the alien hot shoe top of the leaderboard types. You know, folks that like the driving aspects. Like, I love the driving aspects of these sims, but I hate setting up my car, so sometimes I just don't. Actually, fairly often I just don't. I just kind of deal with what I have. But I have fun with it, and hopefully through doing this I find other people that have fun with it too. I'm also distracting myself with talking. So there's a bit of news today out of Slightly Mad Studios. On their Twitter account, they posted that the new version of Project Cars 3, will be coming out at the end of summer. So August 28th is the release date, at least for the US. That's the one I saw. I don't know if that's a global release or not. But, you know, the game's been met. You know, for a lot of people that have never played it, there's a lot of pretty strong opinions because the trailer looks pretty arcadey, and people are, I think, worried that that Project Cars is going in a, you know, arcade's probably too strong a word, but maybe a simcade sort of direction, like a Forza Motorsport or a Gran Turismo Sport direction. You know, I watched the trailers, and there was the initial trailer with the NSX, and I don't remember the other car that was in it. And then there was a second video of someone drifting a C8 Corvette with all the assists off to kind of give you a better feel for the simulation side of it. But from both videos, it wasn't really all that easy to tell. There are things in the game like car customization, and there are things like career progression and assists and things. And, oof. And I think a lot of people that come at this from the more realism simulation side of it maybe are less interested in those sorts of things, of course. So, you know, people on Reddit and Twitter and so forth have sort of been talking down the game, even though, you know, to my knowledge, no one out of SMS has played it. I mean, imagine at this point they're in some kind of beta testing, you would hope. But I haven't heard from anyone that, or read anything from anybody that's actually played the thing. So, you know, my thoughts kind of are, if at the top end of the game they keep the simulation and the realism, and maybe even improve on some of those aspects of this game, but try to make the learning curve a little better for new players and people that are new to simulation games, I think that could be a real positive, actually. So folks that came to sim racing from games like Forza Motorsport 7 or Gran Turismo Sport or some of the less serious sims, the more simcade games, even like the F1 games that Codemasters does, it can be a pretty intimidating thing to get into. I remember one of my first experiences in sim racing back in the day was Grand Prix Legends, and you couldn't get around one corner without crashing one of those cars. And, you know, I stuck to it and ended up having a lot of fun with it. But a lot of people aren't that insane to want to figure out how to play that game. And I think sim racing can be that way. So if they can do something, and right now with sim games, a lot of them, when you have the assists on, are very, it's almost like it's a different game. Like they can be so intrusive that it feels like the cars almost drive themselves. And then when you take them off, you have to learn how to drive the thing almost from scratch. There's almost nothing that carries over. And that could be a really challenging barrier to entry. And of course, sim games are never going to sell like a Gran Turismo or a Forza or the more arcade style games, just because the market is so much smaller for them. So I think the risk that Slightly Mad is taking is, let's see if we can't help people to bridge that gap. Like, give them entry into this game, but have assists that end up being a little more linear. And I forgot where I was. I need a map. Oh, look, there's one. That sort of wean you off of the assists a little better. You know, instead of it being like, all right, here's 2 settings of traction control and then no traction control, and, you know, we're off. To make it a little more gradual, to help players learn to start to feel what the car is doing, and to learn about weight transfer, and to develop a sense for where you're locking up your brakes and things like that, and kind of teach them how to play the game rather than just throw them in the deep end. If they can successfully do that, again, while leaving the top end of the game, the sim side of the game alone, if they can do that, I think they might have something significant on their hands. Now, the problem is that's not easy to do. It's not easy to kind of capture both ends of that spectrum. And so, you know, I understand the folks that are worried about it. At the same time, you know, I'm going to take a wait and see. You know, like, I hope it's good. And if it ends up being a little more simcadey or arcadey, I like some of those games too. You know, I like Gran Turismo and I like um, Forza Motorsport, and uh, I liked Need for Speed Shift when that was around. Like, I had fun with that game. So, you know, I'll probably enjoy it whichever direction it goes. Of course, I hope it's more like an improved version of this. I think we all kind of hope that. Oops, that's kind of the brand that they built with these games, is that it is a simulation game. But if they end up going in a different direction, then they end up going in a different direction, and I have no control over that. So I will probably buy it, and I will probably play it, and I will hopefully have fun with it, and you might actually see me play it on this channel in a couple of months. Alright, so I've treated you all to a terribly boring race of just me driving out in front of the AI. They will not all be like this. I promise you that. There will be different kinds of videos on this channel too. Sometimes I'll play a game like, even like Forza Horizon, or go back and play some of the older games like Need for Speed Shift, or there's a variety of different sorts of games that I'll play. I mean, they're all going to be racing games, of course, but inside of that genre, there will be a few different types of games that I like to get into. I want to do some historical facts and things as well. I think that would be a lot of fun. Maybe doing some historic races where we take recreate some historical type races. I mentioned Grand Prix Legends earlier. I really loved that game, but I loved the cars in that time period, and so maybe we'll do some things with the Lotus 49, or things of that nature. Maybe we'll do some online racing. I don't know. All kinds of anything kind of racing sim related is sort of the stuff that I'm interested in putting together here. So we'll be working our way through the career mode and the different series as well. Touring cars right now, which out of all the series in the game, that's probably the one I know the least about. You know, I know a little bit more about WEC and IMSA and IndyCar and F1 and those sorts of series. But here we are, touring cars, having fun. This car is a blast to drive. Now we are across the line. Alright folks, thanks for watching. Sorry that it was a bit of a boring race, but they will get better as we go along. And yeah, thank you, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.